Henry Bergson, as we already told, is one of the philosophers of evolution. Before he goes into his theory of evolution or philosophy of evolution, he makes a critique of the traditional philosophy, which he characterizes as scientific and intellect-centered. As different from that one, he is proposing a philosophy that has to be centered on intuition. And we have already seen what is the difference between these twofold approaches. It is not a distinction made on the reality. Reality, if looked at with intellect and reason, we see reality as dead and static to be analyzed. But if you look at reality with intuition, we see it as dynamic and moving and alive. So he is proposing philosophy has to be an intuitive search, an intuitive look, which sees reality as a whole, synthetically, not analytically, part by part, as we do in logic with the intellect. Now with this, he comes to his metaphysics, or his main kernel of his philosophy, and there he begins with his theory of evolution. His theory of evolution is basically same as what was given by Darwin. Basically remain, but there is a difference. We'll see the difference later. Before we come to the theory of evolution, he looks at the two classical theories to explain movement and dynamism. The movement in phenomena is explained with the help of two theories, and those theories are mechanistic theory and teleological. Mechanistic and teleological. The difference between the two is this: teleological, the end determines, moves. Mechanistical, the force from outside. The movement is because the force is given from outside. For example, the fan is moving, not by itself, but the energy or the movement, the impetus for the movement is given from outside. I would put it this as one is a push, this one is a push, the other one is a pull. So it is pulling to this one. Sorry, we can put it this way. So this end is pulling the movement. So that is teleological. This one is mechanistic. So these are the two classical theories that explain movement. The end is pulling reality to itself. The end is moving. The end is the source. The end is the reason for the movement. The other one is how the movement takes place. The end is not in picture, but rather from behind some force is making the reality move. So that is, all machines work that way. Machines are moving, not by itself, but the energy is given from outside. That is the two classical type of explanations for movement in phenomena. According to the mechanistic view, organisms are machines functioning in conformity with the calculable laws. So machines function, we know how it will function. Yesterday I gave the example of if I drop this one, it will fall down. But if I drop something that is alive, we do not know which way it will go. Therefore, we can calculate and predict the movement of anything. How the fan will turn, we can calculate. That is the way it is made to move. It is made to move. So mechanistic movements are made from outside. And we know how we have made, accordingly the movement will take place. Therefore, we are able to make prediction about mechanistic movement. So, according to mechanistic view, organisms also are machines. Even living beings also are machines, functioning in conformity with calculable laws. According to teleology, there exists a finished world plan, and the various world processes are directed by this end. And the end is there, and everything is moving in accordance with the goal, the end. The end is directing all the movements. The other one is the source is pushing it forward by energy. That is mechanistic. So these are the traditional classical explanations for the life and movement, or of movement. After having made a critique of these two approaches, which are opposed, Bergson proposes his doctrine of life and evolution. Life and evolution. His problem was as to how to explain the transition from one stage to another, and he finds Elan Vital, vital impulse, can explain it. So how to explain the movement, and he explains it neither mechanistically nor teleologically, but with the help of vital impulse. Or the French term that is used is Elan Vital. So it is good to remember that French term, because many of the books use the French term Elan Vital, life impulse. There is a sort of a power, a force that explains all the movements in the world, all the movements. So that is, as different from the other two traditional explanations for the movement, Bergson proposes life impulse. So an important notion in the philosophy of Bergson, life impulse. Why everything is moving? Why everything is evolving? Because there is a life impulse. What is that one we shall see? The vital impulse or life impulse, Elan Vital, that is the term, drives all organisms towards a more complicated and higher modes of existence. Elan Vital is the essential interior element of all living beings and the creative power that makes an unbroken continuity. We are going to see how the evolution is explained, which I also told is explaining the same way as Darwin has explained. But the main difference between the two is, maybe I am anticipating, so we'll see Darwin was trying to explain how from one stage, how this movement is jumping from one stage to the other one. How from monkey to man, or from the plant realm to the animal realm, even animal realm, the lower type and higher type, how this jumping is taking place. He was trying to explain the different stages and how this transition from one to the other is taking place, and he was giving a scientific explanation for that one. That is Darwin's position. But for Bergson, he explains not in terms of jumps one to the other, although he speaks about that one. The whole thing is a movement, a flow. So Bergson explains it as a flow. Flow of what? Flow of the life impulse. So life impulse is linking all the living things, from the lowest to the more complicated and more complicated ones. The movement is taking place. The movement is growing and making it more complicated and complex organisms from the lower amoeba with one cell. It becomes higher and higher, more complex, and finally human being. But he does not explain in terms of a jump from one to the other. Everything is linked. It is like a flow of river. Small stream started with a small little stream somewhere at the mountain. That started flowing. Bigger and bigger, more complex, and finally the culmination takes place in human being. So everything is linked. There is a flow. That linking, or the inner power linking all the living beings, that is Elan Vital or life impulse. The inner power linking all the all the living beings, starting with the lowest and ending with the highest, the human being. The whole thing is linked. So he doesn't explain that. He is a philosopher. Darwin is a scientist. He is trying to explain how to explain this phenomenon of monkey becoming human. That was his concern. Or any other, from a lower to the other one, how it is taking place. So therefore there is a difference in the way of looking at the evolution. It is through the intuition that we are able to grasp the Elan Vital and its movement. Only when you look at the reality with the intuition, we find everything is linked. The lowest to the highest, everything is linked. As we see the movement, we see the gradual movement from lower to the higher. Evolution is creative since the future is still open. There is no preordained final goal. So the teleological approach is there is a fixed goal. But here it is a movement, and the movement can still go on. So it is explained in terms of a movement, something like Nietzsche's position. It is explained in terms of a movement. That movement keeps on moving. Therefore, the future is still open, as different from the next philosopher whom we are going to see. There we are going to have a fixed end. So there's a difference. So here we are already showing the future is open. There is no preordained final goal. Bergson refers to the creative effort of Elan Vital as the being of God. Of course, that is a theistic explanation. Now the movement is just given in the form of what is called a sketch. The life impulse begins, and then it grows into two streams. The beginning with sometime the life impulse emerges. He doesn't explain how it happens. Somewhere, sometime, and then it grows. It starts moving, and it divides into two streams: the plant realm and the animal realm. And in this process, in the movement, there are obstacles are there. Matter is presenting an obstacle, but therefore the movement is not a smooth sail. It goes, turns back, goes that way. So there are also ups and downs and movements. It is not a straight flow. So because there is something hindering the movement of life impulse. But then it is divided into two streams, and then he takes up with the animal realm, and the animal realm is again divided into two big streams, that is vertebrates and non-vertebrates. That is the distinction that is Darwin himself refers to. That means a lower type of animals are non-vertebrates without any backbone. There is no, like worms, that is non-vertebrates. Still higher form is vertebrates, and the vertebrates still grow and divides into again two streams, and then the ultimate final stream is the human, where the human is characterized by intuition. So far, that is the highest level the stream has reached. Human with the power of intuition, not merely with the intellect, with the power of intuition. That is the stream that we have given. Some explanations are there in the sketch itself. Therefore, I don't have to go into that one. I just glance through what I have given by explanation. At a determinate point of time and space, somewhere, sometime, the stream of life wells up, emerges. The stream, just like a fountain, it emerges. That here doesn't give an explanation how it emerges, where it emerges, why it emerges. No, we are not sure. It tries to overcome the obstacles presented to it by matter. As I already told, the stream starts moving, but there is a big stone there. It obstructs. So it turns the way. The way is changed. The stream does not flow logically, but occasionally errs, deviates, and even swirls backward. So all these different movements take place. It is divided into two big life streams, plant realm and animal realm. Plants are earthbound with the latent consciousness. So all this, and the plants are with the latent consciousness, hidden consciousness. They can directly appropriate from the soil carbon and nitrogen, but animals seek vegetables for nourishment. So a higher type of life. Animals have mobility. The plants do not have mobility. They are bound to the earth, but they grow, but they cannot move from place to place. Animals have got mobility, which goes with the awakened consciousness. So this one, the animal, the plant realm, there is consciousness. Consciousness is same as life. That consciousness is plant realm. That is a latent, plant will put down. That is latent consciousness, hidden consciousness. An animal realm, awakened consciousness. Consciousness is one term for life, consciousness. But of course, it is not the same in all from the lower to the higher. So this one is latent consciousness, this is awakened consciousness. And the difference between the animal and the plant we have already seen. And then animals are divided into vertebrates and non-vertebrates. Vertebrates and non-vertebrates. In the latter, that is, in the non-vertebrates, life is a striving towards movement and flexibility. In vertebrates, consciousness is developed in the form of intellect or intuition. So only in the vertebrates, consciousness is developed in the form of either intellect or intuition. Intellect is directed towards the relations of things in an external fashion. Intellect is able to see the external relation between things. But it is in man that intuition is developed, a faculty to know the moving, growing world. So we become human being only insofar as we have the gift of intuition, by which we are able to see reality as moving and growing. And that is the way he explains this evolution, which he explains in the form of a movement of a stream. And when it comes, I already said consciousness is same as life, but then in human it becomes self-consciousness. So we are able to be conscious of ourselves. So consciousness has grown to a level where one is able to be conscious of oneself. The lower levels of animals or vegetation, they cannot be conscious of themselves. There is a consciousness is there at a lower level, and in the plant realm it is a latent consciousness, but in the animal realm it is a awakened consciousness, which again divides into vertebrates and non-vertebrates, and the vertebrates there again divided into intuition and intellect. So in the given situation, one who is gifted with intuition or one who is intuitive, that is the highest form of the growth or the life. And the specificity of that is that we are self-conscious. We are conscious. Our consciousness is not mere consciousness, but rather I am conscious of myself, self-conscious. So this is the way Bergson explains life and evolution. The whole life is moving, and it is not jumping from one to the other, it is moving. One same force, the same stream is moving. Maybe however small it must have been at the beginning, but the same stream is moving even into the level of the human intuition, but the same stream grows into more complex, from the simple to the more complex, and that way the movement is taking place. So he explains it in terms of movement, flow, and what is moving, what is the linking element? Elan vital, life impulse. That is the one that is linking the whole living beings, from the lowest to the highest. With this, we go to the next point, that is matter and consciousness. Matter and consciousness. So he makes a distinction between matter and consciousness. As we have already seen, science and intellect gives us only a static picture of reality. Even the material world is really movement. This can be seen only if you look at it with intuition. So, although the material world appears to be static, dead, it is also moving. But we are able to see the movement only insofar as we look at it with our intuition. Intuition sees everything as moving, but there is a difference in the movement of life or consciousness and matter. So consciousness is living, live, where we started this movement. But there is a movement. Matter also, we said matter is hindering the movement of elan vital, life impulse. But there is movement also in the so-called material world, and that movement he calls it as a descending movement, but the movement of consciousness is ascending movement. So both there is a movement. Movement characterizes the whole of reality. But then there is a difference. In consciousness, and in matter, there is a movement in both, but there is a difference. And what is the difference? He puts it in understandable terms. The movement of matter is descending. Pushing you down, hindering. We have already seen that expression. The life movement, the life impulse is moving, but the movement is hindered by matter. Matter is coming the opposite way. So it is descending, whereas the movement of life and dynamism, life or consciousness, it is ascending. Ascending movement. Life or consciousness is ascend. The movement is moving forward. The other one is pushing it backward, hindering, restricting the movement of life that is done by matter. So both there is movement, matter also there is movement, but that movement is a more of a restricting, limiting, weighing down, delaying the fulfillment of the movement of life. So the movement of matter is descending or declining, but that of life is ascending. The matter with this descending movement checks life's ascending movement, thus delays its movement or fulfillment. We have already seen that one, that at a particular moment and space and point of space, life emerges and starts moving. But then the movement is restricted, controlled, delayed by the obstacle placed by the matter. Matter is an obstacle for the movement of life. But matter also is moving, but he explains it as the descending movement. Matter is an immense machine without mind or memory. Consciousness is a force that is essentially free. It is present in all living beings. Thus, life is nothing but consciousness. So, another term for life is consciousness. So, elan vital is same as consciousness, the life impulse. That is consciousness. But of course, consciousness, originally it is latent, slowly it becomes awakened, and so on. It grows and up to intuition. But so it is same as life and consciousness. They are nothing but consciousness and life, same, using matter for its purpose. So, okay, living being is a reservoir of indetermination, unforeseeability of possible actions and choices. That means the movement of the living being, it is indeterminate, nothing is determined. It can move anywhere, anyway. So unforeseen, we cannot foresee, we cannot predetermine, say it will move this way. If you put a living animal here, we do not know which way it will move. But if I push something dead to that side, I know it will move only that way. Because because the energy is given for that. Accordingly only it will move. We are able to make prediction about that kind of movement. But here with regard to life, we cannot make any prediction. That's why it's called living being is a reservoir. A reservoir, R-E-S-E-R-V-O-I-R is a French term. Now it is used in English. Reservoir means a place where you keep reservoir of water, a storing place. The pronunciation is reservoir of indetermination and so on. Consciousness is action that continually creates. Matter is action that continually unmakes. So both are action, both are movement. But the action of consciousness is creating. But the opposite is, the other one also is action, but it is unmaking or destroying or restricting the action of consciousness. One cannot be thought of apart from the other. Only in human consciousness, only in the human consciousness is more or less liberated. There is always matter and consciousness go together. Or matter and life go together, restricting the free movement of life. But among all the living beings, in the human consciousness is more or less or relatively liberated, relatively free. Unlike the animals are under the grip of matter, the plants are still more under the grip of matter. But the humans are more or less liberated as far as the restriction of matter is concerned. And they are more or less liberated, since I have given 3 characteristics to show the liberation of human from the matter. Liberation doesn't mean total liberation. We are also with the matter, but still, relatively, we are more liberated. And that is evident from the fact that the human is characterized by three elements I have given, that is freedom, joy, and memory. Freedom, joy, and memory. Specifically, only humans have got, and that is, they are indicative of the liberation of human, liberation of consciousness in human from matter. Not total liberation, relatively liberated. And each one of them, now freedom, only humans are free. The non-humans, the animals, they are victims of their givenness or their instincts. They act instinctively. Although they are able to move, the ants are able to move this way or that way, but they go only that particular way. Instinct tells them act this way. We are relatively more free. So humans are characterized by freedom. Although there is freedom in the animals, it can go this way or that way, but then we are not victims of or slaves of the given instincts of ours. We are able to have a mastery over that one. The other one is joy, experience of joy. The distinction between joy and pleasure. The animals have what pleasure. The animals are able to see the beauty. Animals are able to see the taste. It experiences pleasure, but it cannot have joy. Only humans can have joy, which is a deeper experience. An experience that goes beyond pleasure. We can give spiritual explanation that still remains valid, but I am not just referring that inner experience of joy cannot be had for the non-humans. Only we are able to have the experience of joy, which is not limited only to the time of experience. When I sit on a comfortable chair, I have pleasure only as long as I sit. When I share that one with somebody else, I have joy, not only limited to that time. It accompanies you. Joy is accompanying you. So it is something only humans can have. That shows we are not victims of matter. We have certain control. The third one is memory. Memory is not simply just recollecting what has gone before. Memory he refers to, which is now presently the understanding of memory not only of the past, but also of the future. I am able to extend myself to the past and to the future. I have developed this point in terms of the humans are able to extend itself, recalling to the past as not simply just recording in the mind, but I am able to extend myself. I am not limited merely to the now, to the present. Animals are only concerned about the present. You give grass for the buffalo, it will eat. It does not think tomorrow. It can think only about the present. But humans are able to take their experience of the past. The past is accompanying you. The past is accompanying you. The past is still present, Heidegger will say. And then what about the future? Memory refers not only to the past, but also my ability to see ahead, to go beyond the present. Most of our actions are future oriented. Future is more at work than merely the present. The animals and the less developed consciousness, they are all limited only to the present. here and now. They cannot extend to the beyond, to the past or to the future. The meaning of imagination, the meaning of I am able to foresee how it would be, how it will be. I am able to see ahead. That is what is called memory of the future. The wider, so I explain wisdom that way, one of the explanations of mine. Wisdom is the ability to extend as far back and as far ahead. If you are only able to just to after 1 hour you forget. After you are not able to plan more than 1 hour ahead. I cannot call myself as a wise person. A person of a wisdom is who can extend far back and far ahead. That is wisdom. The wider you are able to go, the more wise you are. It is only explanation of mine in terms of memory. So Heidegger explains it in terms of time. Husserl also explains it in terms of time. So time is not simply the present. Time includes the past as well as the future. The contemporary thinkers are thinking in that line. Already an opening is given by Bergson by his introduction of memory. So only humans can have that kind of a memory. It is not simply just remembering something. It is ability to extend oneself to the past and to the future. That is memory. It shows that humans are not like any other animals or vegetation. We are more liberated. So insofar as this is present, it is indicative of our specificity in comparison to the other lower type of living beings which are under the grip, under the burden of matter. Stop.